Hey guys, this is Donnie B, host of Eat It Up. You're listening to episode number 8. Thank you guys for coming back. We really appreciate it. Today on the podcast, we are talking to Franco Kroese, the owner of Franco's Pizza, which if you live in the Northtowns or grew up there, you are probably more than familiar with. I actually have the pleasure of being related to Franco. He's my uncle, and I've wanted to have him participate on the site, but obviously due to potential conflict of interest, we felt a review wasn't proper, but we invited him down here and we talked about how the whole pizza operation began, where he started at the beginning and how he grew to the size he's at now with 5 stores. So I think it was a really cool conversation. Funny enough, I've known Franco for 7 years, but I actually did not even know how it all began. So it was cool for me to find out, and I hope you guys enjoy it too. So,
God, the fact that we cut our cold cuts fresh to order, and everything we make is fresh. He couldn't believe it. He goes, because a lot of these places now, Donnie, everybody buys bagged lettuce.
Yeah.
Anybody that does volume, I should say. Maybe the smaller places, they still cut lettuce. But anybody that does any real volume, a lot of them buy pre-sliced meats now.
Yeah.
Just like when you buy bologna, they buy, because that's a big thing now, the pre-sliced meats. Everybody got away from the slicers because of having kids, kids that worked.
Yeah, you have like a 16-year-old kid.
I can't have a 16-year-old kid doing a slicer. It's illegal.
Yeah.
So you got to be over 18. So, and a lot of the kids we hire now today are under 18. So we got to play that game with, well, you can't touch the slicer, but we still do that. We're one of the very, very few. I'd be pretty solid to say virtually no pizzerias cut their cold cuts to order. We still do that. Yeah. Every morning we slice fresh lettuce.
Wow.
We slice fresh tomatoes.
I feel like that probably makes a big difference in the flavor.
I think it does. And again, I think when I was telling Paul that, he was like, "Really? You guys do all that? Fresh every day?" He couldn't believe it. And again, everything we do. We grate we dice our cheese. We buy blocks of cheese mozzarella. We dice it every day.
That's crazy.
Our sauce, we make it every day.
Do you think
dough.
I guess I'll go into it because I was going to ask you, Buffalo has so many pizzerias, and there's literally one on every corner of the street. Is that one of the ways that you guys differentiated yourself from the beginning, or starting off, how do you compete with the onslaught of pizza?
First of all, I'll tell you this: when we first started, I didn't know a lot about the pizza business.
Yeah,
I knew more about I knew more about cafeteria business.
Okay.
That was my background. I worked for UB in their cafeterias for 5 years. I went to ECC. I graduated from ECC with an associate's degree in food service.
Oh, okay.
So we learned cafeteria style or food service restaurant, which is much different than restaurant food service.
Yeah.
And so that was my background, but I learned more about what food cost was and how to make money, and I was stronger in that point than I was in actual cooking or
come up with a recipe or something like that.
So when we first started, we did basic recipes. It makes me laugh today because if I think back, one good thing that we did, because we started on East Delavan Avenue. Okay. And Costanzo's they were 2 blocks up the street.
Yeah.
So we used to the driver would go up to Costanzo's and buy 3 dozen rolls, and that was our subs for the day.
Yeah.
Next morning we do the same thing. So we were using, and at that time, if you ever saw, again, you guys being a little bit younger, Costanzo's would open up they had garage doors in the back.
Yeah.
They'd open up the garage door, and you'd get your rolls from the garage door.
Literally
these
fresh,
big
right?
No, and sometimes they weren't even in bags because they were so warm. They could have been plastic bags.
Yeah.
So they would give you the bags, and they'd put them in brown bags, and they'd give you the plastic bags to use later. That's how fresh these rolls were.
Yeah.
So that was a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Plus, in those days, I think the rolls were different.
Yeah.
Like Costanzo's was like so many. At that time, they were a small bakery.
Yeah.
And there was hearth baked bread. Yeah. Today, they're a production. They're a assembly line. So it's more like Wonder Bread.
Every place in Buffalo uses Costanzo rolls.
Costanzo's. They're Western New York. Everybody's like Costanzo's. But it's a different roll than it was 30 years ago.
So when was the first Franco's location?
The first Franco's opened in August of 1979.
Wow.
Yeah, Sunday.
You remember it well.
Sunday, 11 o'clock.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. And I still remember wiping. We had like soap on the windows.
Yeah.
And I still remember washing off those windows that morning and opening up.
That's crazy.
It was quite.
How did you? How did you make the jump? Like, was it a risky endeavor to start your own business from scratch, or?
Absolutely.
As all businesses
again, but 30-something years ago, it was different. I started my first pizza shop. We started with probably about $12,000.
Wow.
And I kind of begged, borrowed, and stole that money. And I bought all used equipment. Mm-hmm. My dad helped me actually build the place.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I remember I could afford one set of ovens, which would be two ovens stacked on top, top of one another. And to make it look better, I thought, well, what I'm going to do, and I had my dad build made it look like a brick oven. Underneath.
Oh, really?
And we stacked the ovens on top, two side by side, so it looked like we had, double sets of ovens.
Nice.
And so again, it looked pretty good, and we got open. I went to auctions. My mother helped me go to some of these auctions and pick up some of this stuff. I borrowed a pickup truck.
Yeah.
I really started from very meager beginnings. Yeah. And the only difference with me, I think, from many people, not that I'm better or worse than anybody else, but I always wanted it to be very professional right from the get-go.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be, and again, because of my background. I came from a place where things were very structured. Mm-hmm. It wasn't. I didn't go from another career into the restaurant business. I was involved in the restaurant business, and I decided to open up a pizzeria. And so right from the get-go, we were very structured as far as our weights and our subs and how much cheese was on a pizza. And probably the negative is that I was more enthusiastic about making money than I was building sales.
Yeah.
So if I think back, today we put over 6 ounces of meat on a sub.
Yeah.
Back then we were doing 2.7. Because that's really what I wanted. 2 3/4 ounces is what it really was.
Yeah.
And today you would be dead because you couldn't do that.
No.
But things again were different 30-something years ago.
Oh yeah.
But little by little, the point is we monitor and adjust.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? 2 3/4 ounces of meat on a sub just doesn't cut it. So we increased it to 4, and then 5, and then whatever. So now that we're 6 or better on some of our subs. And again, that's all about survival today is change. You have to definitely change. I think you've been around long enough to realize, and if you look around, the only way to keep your customers coming back is not only good food. You have to have good food.
Yeah,
but I think that they have to feel that you're staying current, that you're up to date. You have different things. When I started 30-something years ago,
I'm assuming it was less adventurous, or
there was no gourmet pizzas. It was classic cheese and pepperoni and your traditional toppings, mushrooms or hot peppers, and subs we did mostly cold cut subs.
Yeah,
ham.
Not a lot of hot subs.
Turkey,
or
even turkey wasn't even a hot item back then. It was salami, ham, salami, capicola. Those were the top sellers, and later on, the steak sub started coming to play, and some of places like Jim's Steakout. They've created a market in a sense, and we kind of followed along. Well, okay, you want a steak sub? We'll come up with a steak sub. We'll do it. We can do those things, and
chicken finger,
and then chicken fingers came into play.
Yeah.
And chicken fingers was another. I think it was a sidebar of chicken wings. Chicken wings in Buffalo was obviously a staple item.
Yeah.
And then when markets would get kind of out of whack at certain times, certain time periods.
Like the
prices would be so high that I think these purveyors or these companies were smart to think, well, you know what, we can control that with things like chicken breast, chicken fingers, and we can control that, because a lot of the problem with wings it's obviously market driven, and there's only so many wings per bird, and this is the problem that we've had all throughout, especially in the last 10 years or so, throughout our business with chicken wings. 30-something years ago, they virtually threw the wings out. And little by little, they became more and more important. Where today you have Kentucky Fried Chicken. You have some of these big places.
Buffalo Wild Wings that are
they're buying wings. Well, you can imagine all those wings that used to be almost free, and they'd all get shipped to Buffalo. we were buying wings. Well, there was no problem because nobody else in the country was using them. So you have one bird, and you got one breast, and you got 2 wings or whatever. I mean, there's no issue. Technically 4 wings, but there was never a shortage of wings. Well, when the whole country started using wings, all of a sudden now there's not enough wings. We have all these breasts and all these other parts of the bird, and everybody wants chicken wings. And so it really lopsided the market.
That's probably, I mean, has that been recent where that's been a huge issue?
Well, it's been more and more and more, and now I think it's sort of it is turning around back the other way because of the high cost of wings. A lot of operators don't want to serve them. I mean, today's market, we're paying today about 35 cents per half wing.
Oh, really?
That would be the drumette.
Okay.
And the flat.
The flat.
So the combination of those two pieces, which would be one wing, you're close to 70 cents right now.
Wow.
And that's my raw cost into our store. So we have to cook it. We have to put sauce on it, put it in a box.
Jeez.
Add blue cheese, celery.
So as like you guys have expanded, has that just made you more interested in the markets of things like cheese and stuff?
I sort of got off topic and I got on the wing. This is how the chicken finger really kind of exploded. And now, as of late, in the last 5 years, chicken bites or boneless wing, some place call them. But again, this is where these operators have decided, well, wow, we got all these breasts and white meat and whatnot. We can utilize that better by using them in the form of a chicken finger or chicken bite or a boneless wing. And so that's how, but again, it's just, the whole thing is just market driven.
Jeez.
And as far as expanding our menu, I mean, that's, again, just a matter of trying to accommodate the public's interest. So customer comes in and says something like, gee, one time I had this pizza, it had taco beef on it with some peppers. Really? Well, I kind of like that idea. Let me see what we can come up with. Before you know it, we're selling a Mexican pizza.
So how did you come up with the recipes to start?
Well, again, as I mentioned, the 2.75 ounce cold cut. Again, that wasn't a recipe, but that was the idea that I had coming from where I was coming from. And again, if you remember, I mentioned I worked in I worked in the cafeteria. Well, you guys are still too young yet, but especially in the old days, a cafeteria sub was probably 2.75 ounces. It wasn't like the local deli where they're piling it on. And as far as our recipes go, the same thing. A lot of our recipes I developed through talking to people, and they probably weren't all that great when we first opened, to be honest with you. I remember I didn't really quite understand the whole concept of proofing the dough. I thought, I just thought you put it on the pan and you make it and out it goes. And actually some pizzerias do that, but their recipe is designed around that. They'll have your yeast, the dough proofs while it's baking. Our system's a little bit different. We make our dough today for tomorrow. We use a 24-hour resting period or proofing period. There's different words for that. But that gives the dough in a controlled temperature a chance to ferment, which is anything you know about dough or bread doughs. Is the fermentation is where you get all the flavor. So we proof our dough twice. Once, the first time is a 24-hour in a holding cooler, or proofing cooler, and then after that we sheet it out onto the pan, and then we reproof it again for 2 or 3 hours, depending upon temperature and time.
But I mean that's just trial and error to come up with.
Yeah, it was definitely trial and error. All right, you know? I remember the first some of the first pizzas we made. Even I looked at them like, this is not so good. And,
I mean, were you a fan of pizza? I mean, why did you choose pizzerias?
Well, I'll tell you what, my background, a very dear friend of mine is Mark DiGiori. We grew up together.
Okay.
His family background, his mother was Santora.
Yes.
And hence their Mark and his 2 brothers started Santora's Pizza on Transit and Clinton.
Yes.
And Mark and I went to school together. So he was always involved obviously in his family business.
Yeah.
And when I got to high school, I started working part-time on Saturdays with Mark at the pizzeria.
Oh, okay.
And I kind of liked food. I actually had no other. There's only one other thing I liked, and that was cars. I loved cars. Everything to do about cars.
Yeah.
And to this day, I was a little surprised that I never really pursued that.
Yeah.
I didn't go to school for automotive or whatever.
I guess there was a fork on the road. It was either food or cars.
Exactly, and I chose food.
It's worked out pretty well.
Yeah. In the end, it's worked out good. But and so I worked at the at Mark's Pizzeria.
Yeah.
And we did at that time. That was our Saturday, our job. Our day, it was a day job, and we made the dough, and we did the sauce, and we did all that prep work, and I liked it. And to be perfectly honest, it looked to me like, his family seemed to be pretty well off, and I was like, "Well, gee, this looks pretty good." I grew up in the in the city, East Side Buffalo, and. We're a very blue collar kind of place, and I'm looking at the brand new cars and some nice things, and I thinking to myself, this looks like we can make money here. I like this kind of thing. So that was kind of in my back of my head.
And I guess you could also say you're probably comfortable with it. It's something that you knew. It was something.
Yeah. Well, again, I went from that. I mean, while I was in high school, that I did it on once a week on Saturdays. That was my day job. During the week, I had my other 5-day-a-week job was after school. I cleaned floors. I buffed floors, and I worked at a couple different places around Buffalo.
Okay.
So again, that was just something to do for money, for gas money for my car and insurance and etc. And but the food thing seemed pretty good. So when it came time to graduate from high school, everybody was making their choices, and I thought, well, Erie Community College has a 2-year associates in food service. I thought that I could be some sort of food service manager, and that's what I did. And then from that point, while I was at ECC, I got my job at the cafeteria, working for the University of Buffalo.
Yeah.
And again, I probably got more education. Not to put anything down at ECC, because I did learn there was a lot of the mathematics of food service.
Oh yeah, like all the business
the business side of it. But when I got to UB, I learned the actual. This is how it works. This is the for real.
Yeah. There's one thing
we had food costs to maintain and labor costs that we were responsible for, and so I really learned that part of it and the importance of it. When you have $1, you can't spend $1. It doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
So margins. Profit margins and whatnot. I mean, that's where I really kind of learned the reality of how things work.
Yeah.
And again, it really. I worked there for about 5 years, and in that 5 years, not only did I get to meet a lot of people, working on campus was a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
And the campus, one thing that was very neat in the campus was the equipment.
Oh yeah.
I mean, everything was top of the line.
Well, so is this
New York State?
So is this North Campus?
This was the North Campus.
Okay, so it was probably reasonably new still.
Very
right?
new, brand new. We actually had some cafeterias that had not opened yet.
Oh wow!
And they were fully functional, fully staffed with equipment there was everything from pans to spoons and full equipment just sitting there, empty. Coolers that were actually running with
nothing inside of it.
Nothing inside of it. And that was our New York State, known for it. But I remember I took a friend of mine. I mentioned my friend Mark.
Yeah.
And one time I showed him, where I worked, and and he was interested because he was involved in the pizza business. So he was involved in the restaurant business and equipment. And I used to tell him, like, you got to see some of this because it's unbelievable. And he was, again, coming from a small family restaurant.
Yeah.
Where you use the same pan until it doesn't matter if it's deformed or you're straightening it out coming to a situation at UB where, oh my goodness, they had all this beautiful brand new equipment. He was in awe, let me tell you. And like I said, we had some of our cafeterias had not even been used yet. It was the campus was brand
awesome. New. So
very neat.
So you start the first store in '79. How long did it take you to feel comfortable to start expanding? Because currently, you're at how many stores?
5 locations.
5 locations right now.
So, somewhere, for some reason, I'm not even sure why. It wasn't a conscious decision, but I really thought, and again, everything that I did with recipes in mind. Systems, everything. I wanted everything to be systematic. I wanted everything to be consistent. Yeah. So if somebody ordered a menu item one week, they could come back a month later and it's going to be the same thing they had. Exactly. I was very big on that, and I used to read, the story of McDonald's.
Oh yeah.
McDonald's. I've said this to many people. When McDonald's started, did they really have the best hamburger? I'm going to say no.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know McDonald's hamburger. It was a little tiny little burger on this bun.
Yeah.
It was not the best hamburger. You could go to your corner tavern and get a hamburger that was way better.
Oh, yeah.
But you know the difference? McDonald's is consistent.
Every time you get a burger.
Every single burger, single French fry, every single milkshake. Everything was exactly the same all the time.
Yeah.
And people appreciated that. I really think that because one of the problems...
It's safe. I mean, it's a safe...
Very safe. I think one of the problems that you have in general... with restaurants is if the inconsistency depends who the chef is or who's cooking or again maybe the very small restaurants where it's just the mom and pop, so it's always Uncle Billy, he's cooking, it's always going to be the same kind of thing. But as soon as you expand to have different cooks, then all of a sudden that's standardization or that consistency you begin to lose that. So I was very very big on standardization and systems right from the get-go. Yeah. Right from the start. We had charts and we weren't winging it.
Before you even thought about expanding. This is just for your single restaurant.
It was just for my own. It was just a natural... I really didn't... Like I said, maybe subconsciously I thought, if someday we move on, we'll have it set up. But... unconsciously, maybe that was the story, but consciously, it was just like, this is the way I want it. I just want that consistency, and so we set it up that way. So once I was in business for a few years, again, I mean, I worked. We barely. I remember the first year I was in business, and although I thought I was pretty knowledgeable as far as making money and what our profit margin needed to be and our food cost percentages, etc. Well, that was all well and good, but when you do start to make money, I didn't really understand taxes. When Uncle Sam got involved in the first year. Especially back then, the rules are a little different now too for things. But back then, everything had to be written off over a period of time, 7 years or whatever the case might have been. So here is my first year, and every penny that we took in, I was buying something new right away. We needed more pans, we needed some of this, and so every cent I was putting back into the business. Well, at the end of the year, I go to the accountant, and he says, "Well, you owe like $10,000 in taxes." What? Are you kidding me? I don't have $10,000. He goes, "Well, you made that money, and you couldn't write it off. You couldn't expense it. It had to be written off. Which obviously you know what that means. So I had to write it over 7 years. Well, yeah, great. I was going to get some of that money back in the next 10 years, but I don't have $10,000. I almost had to borrow money to pay my taxes that first year.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a rude awakening to like, well, this is kind of the real world out here, isn't it? And so anyway, we did it. And again, as an owner, as a businessman, you start to learn, well, this is how taxes work now. And, and then you start asking a lot of questions. Well, if I buy this, if I expense it, if I buy it, if I write it off, what does all that really mean?
And you start to understand the whole thing about people who open up restaurants. Like, you're going to take a loss your first 1 to 3 years or something like that. So,
well, we couldn't afford to take a loss, let me tell you that. Like I said, when I started, the fortunate thing about, I was still living at home. So, and to be honest with you, Don, my dad really was kind of the guy that said, why don't you go into business for yourself? And when I was working at UB, I was working a lot of hours. It was a classic, I had a kind of a nice title, as cafeteria
you're cozy
manager, right? But I was working a lot of hours too, and so it was kind of not all that great a pay for a lot of hours work. Mm-hmm. And my dad was like, if you ever really want to get somewhere, you should go into business for yourself. If you like that line of work, if you like food service, why don't you go into business for yourself? And I used to talk about when I used to work at my friend's pizzeria, and we used to talk about. I lived at home, so I would talk about we did this at work, or we did that, and I must have demonstrated, at least in his mind, a passion that he must have saw in me. Yeah. And so he was like, why don't you try it? Why don't you go in the business? And in our neighborhood was where I lived in that off of East Delavan. Yeah. I lived in that neighborhood, and this it was a butcher shop, and they closed. And my dad was like, why don't you go take a look at it? Why don't you see how much what the rent is and everything? And so I did. Yeah. And it was actually owned by at that time it was Convenient Food Mart. Oh, okay. They actually leased the property, but they were the leasee for the whole little mini plaza. Yeah, yeah. It was a liquor store, the convenience store, and our pizzeria. Nice. When I made the arrangements when I finally bit the bullet, so to speak, and I went down. I leased the space, and and the people who owned the butcher shop had an auction, and they were auctioning the equipment. So I thought, well, perfect. I'll go there. I can buy the walk-in cooler. I could buy like the 3-compartment sink that was there, and I could buy all these different things. And so here I was 22 years old, had a suit coat on, and a tie, shirt, tie, suit coat.
Looking all professional.
Oh yeah, clipboard. I was the guy.
You're in business.
Yeah, I'm in business. So, if you ever been to a restaurant auction,
I have not had the pleasure yet.
Well, the people there are not walking around with suits and ties on. Let me tell you right now. So, and more likely than not, they're not 22 years old. And if I think back, I probably had just started shaving not too much before that. And so I go to this auction, and the name of the auctioneer was Bronstein. And very, very big at that time in public auctions and whatnot. Yeah. And to tell you the truth, I really had never been to a public auction. I had also had another job where I was involved in a car business. And, so I'd gone to a couple automobile auctions, so I had a basic idea of auctions work. And, so I thought, this is no big deal. I should be able to handle this. So I go there, and so the auctioneer starts the bidding on certain pieces, and one specific piece, it was silly. It was a sink. But it was like the bidding had started. I think it went up to like $90 or something for this particular sink. Mm-hmm. I really didn't think it was worth it for anybody else because they would have had to take it out of there. Yeah. For me, it was very well worth it because even if I paid more for it, because it was already installed. I wouldn't have to go buy one and have it installed. It was there. I was ready to go. So, but I kind of balked at it. The bidding kind of went up fast, and I kind of balked. And the auctioneer, being a lot smarter than I was, he saw that I was starting to play around a little bit, and he goes, and he basically, did one of these. Okay, sold. Not to me, it's somebody else. And I ended up having to go to that guy and say, "Listen, I'll buy. I'd really like to have the sink. Can I buy it from you?" And whatever. He goes, "Sure, you can have it. I don't really want it that much anyway." So, and he upcharged it, whatever it was, $50. And I still think to this day that there was a little something in cahoots there with those two guys, because the classic, and again in those days, and probably today too, but in those days, there was always a couple of guys in the crowd that were restaurant equipment guys.
Oh, okay.
And so they were very familiar with the auctioneer, and they were very familiar with what was going on, and it was a little bit of a wink and a nod, and next thing I knew, I was out like an extra $50.
Have you like when you've been opening the like more and more locations as you've kind of become more seasoned in the industry, do you still use restaurant auctions when you're looking
not
at it
anymore?
No.
It doesn't make any sense anymore, especially with any kind of refrigeration.
Yeah.
At some point, probably 15 years or so ago, I decided it's not worth it. It's much better off to buy it new. Mm-hmm. The way that some of the tax laws are today, you can expense that equipment immediately. You don't have to depreciate it over 7 years. You can expense it. So for me, as a company, I'm much better off buying a brand new piece of equipment, expensing it for that year.
Yeah.
And at least I know it's going to last, for a decent amount of time, 5 years or whatever. Again, Donnie, things have changed so much, even with this stuff.
Yeah.
I bought used equipment 30-something years ago that lasted 10 years. It was used and it lasted 10 years.
Yeah.
Today, I bought brand new equipment. It doesn't last 5 years.
Yeah.
Compressors are gone in 3 years.
That's crazy.
Things like that. It's much, much different. Things have just changed so much in that regard today, the quality of things and equipment. But, getting back to your question, we don't... We just opened up a new location 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And every single thing in that location, every nut, bolt, screw is brand new.
Have you, has it gotten, you just opened that new location. It has to be way easier. Or let me ask, is it easier now to open up a brand new location?
Well, I'll tell you this. Because we're systemized.
Yeah.
I was very proud on probably the second day that we opened.
Yeah.
And it was busy. And I stood in the middle of the kitchen and I looked around and everything was going. Everything was working according to plan.
Yeah.
There was no snafus, maybe a couple of small snafus, but in general, it was like I felt at that moment like I was like McDonald's. Everything was working.
Yeah.
The people at the front counter, the pizzas were coming out the way they were supposed to.
Yeah.
The subs, everything was working the way it was supposed to. Our system our order taking system.
Yeah.
It really was. It took us 32 years to get there, but it really was. Just like I said, it was that store at day 2. I could actually brag further and say day 1.
Yeah.
We opened at 4:00 the first day that we opened, and we were off and running. There's no issue like, oh, this is burning or that's not working right. We were off and running. It was really awesome. Incredible. I felt very proud at that moment.
Yeah,
of just everybody, myself, our team. The way things worked, it was really, really neat, and that's a long way off from number 2 or number 3.
Yeah. Having 6 stores, is there a part of you that, or I'm sorry, 5 stores, there's a part of you that you want to go around and make sure, or have you installed people that you trust into running these stores?
Well, again, I can't, obviously, we have 5 locations. I can't be in every location. Kind of love to be, but impossible.
Yeah.
And so, again, based on systemization, if I taught you our system, you could take it and you can run with it. As long as I've taught you how we do things.
And you feel confident.
And I feel comfortable with that. And we have checks and balances. There's different things that we do to qualify that system.
Yeah.
And I think it's very, very important. And more than that, Donnie, everybody knows how I feel.
Yeah.
Like in any company, there's a culture involved, and I think it really comes down from the top.
Of course.
Jobs from Apple. Steve Jobs. He created a culture in Apple, and his people related to that.
Yeah.
IBM had their own culture.
Yeah,
much different than Jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think Franco's, the people who work for me, think the way I think. They have to, or they wouldn't be working for me.
Yeah.
They really have to. I want people to think that way.
Yeah.
I've told them many times. You know what I want. So when it's your turn to make the choice, or your turn to make the decision,
yeah,
because I do empower them to make decisions.
Yeah,
we don't do things perfect. We make mistakes.
Yeah.
The idea that there's a pencil has an eraser for a reason.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a firm believer in that. but what I am a firm believer in is empowering our managers to get it fixed, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Whatever the customer wants to get it corrected, let's get it corrected. If we forgot the onions on a sub or whatever the story is, get it corrected as soon as you can and make sure that they're happy. That golden rule is utmost.
Yeah.
They're always right. Even when they're wrong, they're right. And there's no reason to argue. A lot of kids, especially today, again, things have changed. A lot of crew today, kids today, they want to try to quantify the mistake. Mm-hmm. It's so not important because that customer doesn't care the reason for the mistake. They really don't care. All they know is my food wasn't the way I ordered it.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to try to quantify that. Just get it corrected.
Yeah.
Apologize for the mistake. Get it corrected. That's what I think. And customer satisfaction. We serve probably 7,000 customers a week now.
Wow. 7,000
customers a week. So you can imagine, out of 7,000 customers a week, you're going to have a few people that either weren't happy or, again, you can imagine all of those. That's 7,000 people. That's not 7,000 subs or pizza or whatever. That's 7,000 people, orders, which have 2 or 3 subs or a pizza. So, again, who's in a hurry, and when they took the order on the phone, they just happened to hit the wrong box, and they forgot to enter mayonnaise or whatever. These things, it happens.
It's inevitable.
We have a system in the stores. It's an "Oops, we goofed" card, and that's actually what it's called. "Oops, we goofed" card.
That's awesome.
And on the card,
it helps to make light of the situation.
Yeah, exactly. We're trying to keep it light, And on the card, it has to be filled out by the person who made the error or the mistake or who caused the situation.
Yeah.
The manager has a section on it that they fill out, and they explain what the problem was, what the credit was. I mean, it starts out with the customer's name, phone number, etc. What the reason for the credit, mm-hmm. and the reason of why they think it happened, and how it could be improved so it wouldn't happen again.
Yeah,
and everybody fills that out. They put their 2 cents in there. So, and again, a lot of it is just standard. I missed it, that kind mm-hmm. of thing. But every once in a while, you never know. You might come up with, every time I do that, the cardboard's in the way or something, or I can't read the chart. And so again, for me, and I read every one of those every single week.
Yeah,
every single Oops, You Goofed card ends up on my desk. I look through them to see what they're about. And I look to see, if it's always Don. Pretty soon you're gonna, Don's gonna get a visit from Franco. Don, what's the situation here?
So the 5 locations are all in the Northtowns, pretty much. I mean, it's a wide range, but mm-hmm. for the most part, you're in the Northtowns.
Absolutely. I had a specific reason for that.
Okay, yeah. I was curious if that was deliberate or if you've built your name in the area that it's familiar.
That really was my intention. Probably after number 2, and I started number 3 sort of came along on a fluke, to tell you the truth. But from that point on, I specifically my thought always was, especially regarding marketing. Yeah. For example, this 5th store that we just opened, we're not going to spend not one penny. Yeah, more than last year. I shouldn't say that because we will spend more, but we're not going to spend any more than we spend on 4 locations than we did on 5. Okay, the 5th comes along free. Technically, what's going to happen is I'm going to take that 5th location and advertise more. Yeah. But again, it's all the whole marketing area is built around the Northtowns. So for us to jump now, for example, if I'd open up my 6th location and jump out in Hamburg, well, wow, that's a whole nother. That's like starting all over again to build your name, to build up a reputation. Some people might know us now because we've been around for a while, but and some people might work in the Northtown area. So when they go out to Hamburg, I do have a lot of customers that say to us, "Gee, when are you going to open up in West Seneca?" I work here, but I live out there. Yeah, and so. again, that position is growing now, but initially my concept or my thought was to stay within our marketing area and grow the marketing area.
Yeah. I mean, because I was a pretty sheltered eater, I mean, when I met you. And I to be honest, I didn't know about Franco's Pizza until you came into the family. And I was shocked. And then I found out there's 4 locations, and I was like, wow. Like, and then when I started working with people who lived in the Northtowns, and now I work in the Northtowns, like everyone knows about Franco's, and right. I was like, I had no idea until a couple of years ago. Yeah. But I mean, it definitely has worked. I mean, everyone. I mean, it's if you live in the Northtowns, Williamsville, Amherst,
you've heard of it.
Kenmore, yeah, you've heard of Franco's.
Right.
So, would there be the only way possible would be to like a slow trickle down?
Well, again, it all depends what our direction is going to be.
Yeah.
If we're going to do something like franchise, or branch out a little bit further, utilizing that, well, then again, the growth could be much quicker.
Yeah.
But if it's really going to be our company, Franco's Pizza, then my guesstimation would be we're going to move slower, trickle, using your word, trickle out.
Out I mean, because you don't want to make a huge jump, but if you moved close enough where people are familiar, because
I don't see the value. I don't see the value for us to move. To go out, 15 miles away.
Yeah,
right
true.
now it's so convenient for us. Again,
true.
With the 5 locations, Store 101 is running low on pepperoni. They can borrow from Store 102.
Yeah.
It's so much easier. We don't do this a lot, but even for our staffing,
if somebody's running,
one store is like crazy busy because something's going on in that area, we can ship send one of our drivers over to work in that area.
Yeah,
it's only 5 miles away or 3 miles away, 3 to 5 miles away.
Yeah.
So it's much more convenient, so much easier. Everybody...
I mean, and it's working, obviously.
Everybody has their own ideas.
Yeah.
My idea was to stay within our marketing area.
That makes sense.
We might be a little closer than I kind of would have, or if I had a white piece of paper, I would have drawn it a little bit, spread out a little bit further.
Yeah.
But the way the neighborhoods are and the way the market worked, this is the way, and the opportunities that we had. Yeah. This is the way that worked out, and so far it's worked.
Yeah,
it's worked very well for us.
So speaking of busy days, the Super Bowl just passed.
You're not gonna tell us Super Bowl, are you?
Yeah. So the Super Bowl just happened last weekend. We're recording this on, I don't know what day today is, the 8th, maybe 9th. I don't know. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I mean, along with opening new stores and getting used to that traffic, this was your 32nd Super Bowl that you've worked. Right. I mean, has that progressed
the
as well?
The life of Super Bowl has changed quite a bit.
Yeah.
The Super Bowl, Super Sunday was. Are we allowed to use the word Super Bowl here? At this?
Yeah.
They're pretty sketchy about that. Anyway, Super Bowl Sunday, up until Buffalo got into Super Bowl Sunday was nothing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't even work them. It was a Sunday. I don't normally work Sundays.
Yeah,
I work every other day, but not Sunday.
Yeah, and
up until Buffalo getting into the Super Bowl Sunday was no big deal. It was a little busier day, but no big deal.
Then 1991 happened.
Right after that happened, everything went haywire, and every year since then.
Yeah.
Now Super Bowl Sunday is it's our biggest day of the year.
Yeah.
Bar none. I mean, it's just a huge day.
Was there a reason? Did you try to have that new store open deliberately ahead of Super Bowl Sunday?
I tried to open it before the holidays. Was my goal. I wanted to be open before the holidays because the holidays in general are a busy time for us.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I know Black Friday for restaurants is pretty busy because
it's a pretty busy day.
Because it's
almost a take it or leave it day for us. It's not.
You either
hit
either hit the target that wants you to cater their their lunch break, or
but again for us, in the big picture, and again not to understate anything.
Yeah,
every order is a wonderful order.
Yeah, of course.
But a company like Target, for example, they order 10 sheets.
Yeah.
that doesn't change our picture all that much.
No.
And even if you get a couple of those, so don't get me wrong, it's important.
Yeah.
It's a great day.
Yeah.
Some of our locations are not around malls or whatever, so they might get
a regular day,
pretty much a regular day. Where, for example, our Eggert Road store or our Boulevard store, they're closer to the Boulevard Mall, and a lot of the the Target, all the different big boxes are around, whether it be Lowe's or Home Depot, et cetera, in the whole mall, the whole Boulevard Mall.
Yeah.
So we definitely we get some traffic from that, but that's nothing compared to
Super Bowl Sunday. Is that the biggest day of the year?
That's definitely the biggest day of the year. The second biggest day would be Halloween.
Really?
Yeah. But Super Bowl Sunday is the craziest day. And again, some stores are busier than others.
Yeah.
But it's a huge thing. And the big thing of it is not only is it the biggest day, but the sales are compressed in 3.5 hours.
Because you have to have everything ready, between 4 and 8, I guess.
Well, it's probably even sooner than that, because everybody, I would say 75% of the business comes in before the game starts.
Yeah.
And then you have the balance of it, probably the other 24% comes in before halftime.
That's crazy.
And then pretty much after halftime, you can shut the lights off.
We're
cleaning up.
Have you gotten to a point now, because obviously most places take the orders a day early or something like that. Do you just have this, the logistics behind this seems fascinating, that you have to literally have probably seconds of error, margins of error, because you have to have 100 orders ready every 15 minutes or something like that. I don't know.
We use a system where we actually sort our tickets.
Mm-hmm.
We use envelopes.
Yeah.
The envelopes are marked 4 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock, 5:30, etc.
Yeah.
And as the tickets come in, they go in the envelope. We don't put them on the ticket minder or hang them up, that kind of thing. They go in the envelope, and we track how many tickets are in the envelope, and that tells us how far we can go, how many more orders I can take, or where are we on that 4 to 4:30 half hour.
Yeah.
At some point, we have to say, okay, we can't take any more hours during that time. I have to move you to the next time slot, and when that fills, you go to the next time slot. So at 4 o'clock, you might call, and I have to say, we're at an hour and a half. So the soonest I can get you a pizza is 5:30 at this point.
Yeah.
Some people find that incredible. They're like, what do you mean? An hour and a half? It doesn't take an hour and a half to cook a pizza. Yeah, well, that's because I've got 100 other pizzas in front of your pizza.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's something unique. This year I was surprised. Every operator does his own thing. Yeah. And without mentioning names, a customer walked in this year, and said, gee, I was at so and so's, and I tried to order a pizza, and they said, we're not taking any walk-in customers.
Wow.
So that woman left, that customer left, and came to us, and I just can't refuse a customer. Just no way I can. As it stands, I have a hard time shutting down that half hour period. We can do. We're still good. We can do it. And sometimes I get stung for that.
So I guess how I kind of want to round this up is I know you enjoy a fine dining experience, and you're a fan of eating as much as I am. Has there ever been a tickle of an urge to get into that industry at all?
Not at all.
No.
One thing I've seen over the 32 years, I think you mentioned that 32 years, it's going to be 33 years this year, actually. I've tried to stay
because
doing what I know best.
Yeah, because the first thing I thought of was I'm from Orchard Park, and John Ricotta opened up Manja, and that was kind of his pet project,
right,
that he wanted to have his own thing, and it seems like it's been successful. I don't know. I don't live in OP anymore. I don't see the traffic, but I thought the same thing of you, because I know how much you enjoy that experience and things like that.
Yeah, but the difference is I enjoy being on the other side of the kitchen for those experiences. I love the pizza business. I love everything about it. I'm still very passionate after the amount of years I've been in. I still love it. I just love the you mentioned Super Bowl Sunday, all that preparation, the planning. Yeah. It's thrilling. It's really fun.
Yeah.
And
you're working a 14-hour day and it goes by like in 2 hours.
A minute. Yeah. And so, I mean, I'm still very passionate about it, but it's what I know, and I'm very comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And I haven't sat on my laurels all this time. I'm looking at new things. So I go to the people laugh because I go to the every year there's a pizza convention or a pizza show
in Vegas, right? Yeah.
So as soon as I say that, people smile. Right? Oh yeah, all right. You're going to Vegas,
you're just going to be drinking.
You're going to learn how to make pizza in Vegas. Well, believe it or not, it's the biggest show in the world. It's the biggest pizza show in the world.
Yeah. And
I go there every year, and I go there and look around and network and talk to people and see what's it's a way for me to stay current in my business.
Yeah.
And I love it. And so I have getting back to your original question, I really don't have an interest in anything else. I know this. I like it. Why would I want to try? I have no interest to try something new.
Okay.
But I do like being on the other side of that kitchen, for sure.
All right. Well, Franco, thank you so much for coming over. I really appreciate it.